Hey guys, this is Brian Moutz. We're turfmechanic.com. Today I want to talk about mowing the grass in the early spring. I actually want to talk about the three main reasons why you should be cutting your grass in the very early spring for your area. Some places that might be late February, some places it might be mid-March, some places early spring really starts in the 1st of April. It's a very climate-based thing and it all has to do with the weather. Now there are a ton of reasons why you should be mowing the grass, but I want to focus on the three most important ones. And in no particular order, let's start with how cutting the grass affects the sunlight hitting the ground. Depending on how your mowing practices were in the late fall, some people have pretty tall grass going into the winter, and then over the course of the winter, the grass kind of folds over on itself and lays down and goes dormant. Many tall cut grasses will look like just a matted layer of dead grass in the early parts of spring. We usually fluff that grass up with a rake and then start cutting it. The reason for that is we can expose more soil surface, and then on a day that's not exactly like today, when we get sun, the sun can come down and actually get to the soil easier. If there's a whole bunch of dormant grass that is tall sitting on top of the soil, the sun isn't going to warm the soil up nearly as fast. So we're going to have a delayed green up and growth in the spring season. It's extremely important to get all of that dormant laid over grass cut and removed so that your soil can warm up enough for your grass to actually start growing and for the microbial life in the soil to emerge from winter dormancy. Now, the second main reason that we want to start cutting our grass a little bit earlier in the season than some people might instinctively think is because when we cut the grass, it's basically the same action as pruning a tree, a flower, or a bush. When we cut the leaf tissue off of the grass, it actually stimulates hormones within the grass. That sounds silly to actual human beings that don't really study this stuff very often, but plant growth is regulated by hormones just like it is in the animal kingdom. When we cut the grass, it stimulates additional growth. And if we're cutting the grass more frequently, then it's going to start pushing that growth side to side. Grass plants are going to thicken up, spreading grasses are going to start spreading. The growth hormones that are released by the grass plant are going to cause your grass to become more vigorous, fill in gaps that might have formed over the winter season, and it will green up and actually have the look that most people want out of their lawns. If we don't cut the grass and we wait too long, eventually all of this stuff will happen on its own, but again, it will happen much later in the season. It could be a few weeks delayed. Now, the third main reason that we start cutting our grass in the early part of the spring is really just for the aesthetic value here. Now, as I talk here, there's actually a fourth reason to do this, so I'll call it a bonus reason, so stick with me here. But the aesthetic value of cutting the grass is really going to make your lawn instantly look significantly better than it did over the tail end of winter. Now, as we come out of fall into winter, usually you've got green grass that slowly browns out, slowly becomes a more dingy green as it goes into a state of winter dormancy. If you have a warm season lawn, it might go completely brown, like 100% brown. Longer cut lawns are going to look a little bit shaggy, a little bit more lumpy and bumpy. They're not going to look manicured at all. Some lawns in the transition zone are going to have this constant dingy look to them because although you can get some warmer temperatures in the winter months, you can also get freezing temperatures and snow, which can easily damage the leaf tips of your grass. This presents itself as kind of this dingy, almost brown kind of color. It's not exactly bad looking, but it doesn't look great. And when we come in at the end of winter or the very, very beginning of spring, before our grass is growing vigorously, and we go and cut it, we're basically cutting off the damaged leaf tips of our grass, exposing the healthy grass below. Now, if you use your bagger setting on the mower and remove that materials directly from your lawn, you're going to be left with grass that is actually green and starting to grow. It's not going to be vibrant green quite yet, and it's not going to be growing vigorously, but it is going to look notably different and better to the eye to just about anyone that takes a passing glance at it. So that's three things. We're going to get sun hitting the soil, warming it up. We're going to stimulate hormonal growth patterns in the grass, and we're going to make the lawn look better. Now I'm going to give you a quick little fourth bonus tip here. This is kind of ninja, and this is more for people who really want to truly get deep into lawn care. When we start cutting the grass in the very early spring, we can very easily start training our grass blades to whatever height we want. So let's say, for instance, we used to cut the grass tall last year and we want to cut it shorter this year. The early parts of the spring is one of the best times of the year to reset your grass height. One common scenario coming out of winter is you're going to get patchy growth. Parts of your lawn are going to start growing faster and earlier than other parts of the lawn. So if we start cutting from a very early stage, then we can set that mower down lower and start cutting it at that level, and then eventually all of the grass wakes up to the same exact level. If we want to cut it a little bit higher, we set that mower up a little bit and we start cutting the patches of grass that are currently growing, and then slowly everything gets up to the exact same height. We train the grass blades so that the crown and the stem of our grass plants don't get damaged later in the year after they've been brought down, let's call it a month or so after it's been growing vigorously. Now, typically when you start mowing, you probably haven't fertilized yet. Fertilizing the lawn in the very early season is a completely different topic, and I do have a video on it. So linked right up here is my early season fertility program that I did in 2021, and it's the program that I'll be doing also in 2022. Make sure to watch that video next, and as always, relevant links are in the description below.